There you go.
All right. And I'm going to start letting people in. All right. Welcome, everyone. As we start getting people adding into the webinar, give everyone here just a minute or two to log in. Hey, Jen, welcome. Tell us where you're from. I'm calling in from sunny and boiling hot Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where it's been 90 degrees the last 3 days. I've given my air conditioner a run for its money.
And I'm Roger Snyder. I am connecting from the Santa Cruz Mountains in California, about an hour south, hour and a half south of San Francisco. And yeah, it's going to be high 80s here today. So I don't have air conditioning and because the house was built in the 70s and you didn't normally need air conditioning in the Santa Cruz Mountains back then. So, we'll be running the ceiling fans today, that's for sure.
Well, that was a good investment, Roger. That was a good product investment. How about
That's
that?
right.
That was a good
Yep.
enhancement. It may
Less
not have been part of your
expensive.
MVP. It may not have been part of your MVP when you built the house.
Right, right. And way less expensive than AC. And we normally only need it for a couple of weeks of the year. So we're good.
We'll just wait a couple more minutes here for people to log in. Let us know in the chat where you're from. We'd love to see where you're from. Tell us where you are located. Okay. Feel free to use the chat option. There we go. Dallas, Texas. Oh yeah. Yeah, Mirna, it's Chicago. Yeah, it's been boiling hot here as well. All right. Well, let's give everyone just another minute to log in, and then we can go ahead and get started.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Okay. All right, so today's topic is around how to get your next promotion. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And let me introduce myself. My name is Joe Ghali. I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been a consultant and trainer on the Productside team for it'll be 3 years, believe it or not, Roger. September 3rd will be my third anniversary.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
I've been in the product management space now for well over 20 years. How about you, Roger?
Yeah, I just celebrated my 8th year with Productside this month, earlier this month, August 8th. And also have been in the product management field for decades. We just like to say decades once we get up over 20. And have been in Silicon Valley, worked with a number of different companies, different technologies, software, hardware, physical products, consumer electronics, military products as well. So quite a bit of experience, a lot of fun working on a variety of products.
Excellent. Well, good. Well, for those who aren't as familiar with Productside, so what are we all about? We are all about outcomes, right? We are consider your partner in crime as you go through your product transformation journey, whether you're a team, an organization, or an individual that wants to upskill their product management techniques and skills. Why clients choose us is really we're there in it in the long haul. So we're a partner with them. We are very cognizant. We're good listeners. And to that point, because we're good listeners, we're able to tailor our content to a way that makes the most amount of sense for the person receiving it. And like Roger and I just talked about, we've been in this space now for quite some time. You'll be surprised to find out that the challenges you have, whether you're an individual, a team, or an organization, are not unique.
Mhm.
But we have a lot of great experiences and we're eager to share them.
Absolutely.
All right. And so I would encourage all of you guys that are here in the webinar to ask us questions. So we have Rod, we're going to take turns moderating today. So Roger's going to help me in the beginning part of it, and then I'm going to take the baton from him.
Mhm.
Yes, if you want to watch this later, you will definitely have that opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So please put questions in the question box. We may address them directly at that moment, or we'll address them near the end when we have a Q&A section.
Yeah. And the big thing here is connect with us, join us. The beauty about what Roger and I do is we've had so many great experiences and we'd like to share those on LinkedIn, whether it be we're going to share a blog post that we think is really insightful in the product space, or we're going to share a video or an upcoming webinar. Please join the LinkedIn crew. All right. I would be remiss. As a father of two high school teenage daughters, it is back to school time. And so to celebrate this momentous time of the year, Productside is offering a really lucrative and really it's a very really good deal
Mhm.
for an individual, team, group that is looking to upskill. So we have the ability to save up to 200 or $570. So click on the or scan the QR code here on the slide, and we can help you there. All right. So what are we going to cover? Right. I want to just take a second. We're going to help you, wherever you are in your product journey, we're going to help you with the following today, right? We're going to talk about how to define your role with the promotion in mind. It's not about the expertise you gain, it's about mastering the expertise. It's about elevating your strategic impact, not just having a strategic impact, but elevating it, demonstrating that you're ready to take that next step. Roger and I were just talking about this the other day. In many cases, for those who get promoted, they're already doing the work, right? They're having to prove themselves out as a leader. And we'll talk about what those techniques look like. And to help kind of wrap it up, we'll talk about building your plan, right? What are you going to be focusing on? What are your goals? And then we'll talk about some next steps. So let's go ahead and start with a poll question. How many years of experience do you guys have as product managers? Someone like Kim spin up the poll for everybody. It's always like a racehorse, right? I got my money on. Who do I have my money on? Let's see. All right. So right now it looks like the majority, 67%, are in that newer stage, right? Less than 3 years, though. It does look like we got a couple of people that are in that 3 to 5 year range, which is perfect. So, Kim, can you share the results of the poll to everyone? Excellent. All right. So when we talk about, let me make sure I'm still sharing. When we talk about your promotional path, right? I want you guys to have this framework in mind. Think of this as your promotional path, right? And we're going to talk about knowing, becoming, leading, managing, and directing. So how are we going to get there? Well, I thought about this and I was telling Roger about this just before the webinar. I was like, I have some inspiration for this. And I'd like to think that my oldest daughter, Casey, was the inspiration for this webinar. And here's why. So Casey is a senior in high school, and she has been working at our local national state park for the past 3 summers. And every year when school ends, she comes home and she's like, Dad, you won't believe it. They're paying me more money this year. They're giving me more responsibilities, and she's really excited. So the big thing for her was, and this is the picture she's taken, which she better have been stopped when she took this picture. She gets to ride the gator, right? Because she goes between different parts of the park. But she was asking me, she's like, is this how it normally is? Every year you come in and they give you an increase and they just add more responsibility. And at first, Roger, I was thinking, nah, that's not reality. But then, the more I thought about it, I like there's some similarities here. Because she had said, well, what is it like for you and Mom? And I got to thinking, there is something to be said about her summer job and the experiences that she's had the last few years. And it's
Right.
like you look at the foundation of it. She comes in, she demonstrates aptitude, she works hard, she takes on new projects, she volunteers, and she builds trust with her manager. And every year they reward that effort with added responsibility and added pay. And I said, Case, yeah, I said that actually in my world, in Mom's world, that there's a lot of similarities there. And we're going to talk about how to leverage Case's example in your scenario as a product leader.
Absolutely. And Joe, if you wouldn't mind going back just to the ARC slide, I do want to make a comment here, right? So when Joe and I were putting together this webinar, we showed what I think would be the most common path to promotion, right? In terms of getting to understand the role you play clearly and deeply. And we'll talk more about that. That's the next thing I'm going to talk about. And then how you become expert, become recognized as an expert in the product management discipline, right? And demonstrate then through leadership of product teams where you are not the manager, right? But you are the person who is leading that product team, a cross-functional product team of folks. You need to inspire them to want to follow you, even when you don't have authority. So the product management role in particular is a great one to prepare you to become a real manager in the future, a manager of folks. When I say real manager, a manager of a team, because you first have to get really good at the inspiration part. You have got to become great at that without any authority. And a lot of folks who get pushed into a leadership role haven't had that experience. So being a product manager is going to get you set up for success early when you have to lead teams without authority. Then managing multiple products is important to demonstrate that you have the breadth of thinking broadly and being able to look at more than one problem at a time. That's a key aspect of becoming a leader. And that should then lead to director roles in product management. Now, the other thing I'll say is I once upon a time at a company had a CEO say to a really bright employee, hey, you don't have a product management experience. There's no way you're ever going to be a leader in this company. And a couple of years later, they were an executive at the company. So this is the typical path that a product manager can follow, but it's not the only path. I just want to be clear about that, right? Maybe you came from sales. You've got a great background in negotiations, in customer engagement. You can still become a great product management leader, right? Even from that perspective. So while this is the typical path, there are other paths to becoming a higher ranked employee and eventually a director or even say a vice president. I just wanted to say, we're going to go through this typical path, but there are other approaches as well.
Absolutely. All right, so Roger, I'm going to hand the baton over to you. Defining your role with promotion in mind.
Absolutely. Great. Well, so let's go to the next slide. Right. So why do product managers exist? Let's talk about that just for a moment. And it starts from the fact that this is not an easy job, right? If you look at the statistics, right, year after year, studies come out and they almost always have a number of what percentage of products fail. It's always north of 70%, right? If you average up all the different studies that we've looked at over the last 5 years, it's like 72%. All right. So this is not an easy job. Products that go out there almost more than half the time, obviously, fail. So our role as a product manager is to coordinate a deep understanding of what the customer's needs are, and then communicate that understanding across the teams and avoid the picture that you see here. This cartoon is an oldie but a goodie. And unfortunately, as product managers, you probably all could identify with some of the pictures in this, right? But the point is, we've got to be great at coordinating a team to have a common goal, a common understanding of our customer needs, such that we are all driving towards that same goal. And that means you've got to have some great sets of skills to be a great product manager. It's not an easy role. You've signed up for something hard, but boy, it is so satisfying when you are able to succeed as a product. So let's talk about, what's your center of excellence as a product manager? And it really is driving towards product market fit. All right. And, you take one of our classes, you'll learn a lot more about this. So I'm only going to touch the surface here. The point is, you are supposed to find that unique combination of building a product that's valuable to our customers. It's viable for your company to build and feasible. You have all the right pieces of the technology, the intellectual property, all of the supply chain, the channels, everything. It's feasible to build, and it's viable in the sense that you can make money at it. You can be profitable at it, or you can achieve the business goals that your company sets out. Even if you're a nonprofit, you still have to generate revenue in order to feed all the people that are in that nonprofit, trying to achieve that nonprofit's mission, right? So as a product manager, you are tasked with the very valuable role of seeking product market fit, valuable, feasible, and viable. All right. So be thoughtful about that every day. A key element of success initially as a product manager, but then later as a leader, is your ability to communicate and collaborate. All right. As product managers, another aspect of this, I mentioned earlier that it's great that you have to learn how to influence without authority. It's also great that you have to learn how to communicate effectively and collaborate. Bring together folks with different perspectives, stir all of those perspectives together to find the best answers. Oftentimes that's not you, by the way. So you got to be listening, as Joe mentioned earlier. right? And when you hear a good idea from somebody, promote that idea, get that idea and test it, right? But again, we're not going to go through everything you need to do as a great product manager, but communicating and collaborating are crucial to your success, both to make a great product and prepare yourself for promotion. All right. So as you're planning out your next role, as you're thinking about how do I get to the next step, make sure that you are mastering your current role. You understand deeply. And this is something I encourage you to sit down with your manager and have a conversation about, right? Make sure you and your manager are on the same page so that they know what you think the role is, you know what they think the role is, because making them look good is also a part of your responsibility. All right. I have had different ideas over my career of what was important. And then my manager would open my eyes to, oh, all right, satisfying the needs of our finance team right now are actually really important, both to make her look good and to make our product successful. Keep that in mind, right? So then know what that path to promotion looks like. Understand the role. If your boss's role or a peer of your boss's is someone that you aspire to be next, take a look at that role. Understand the differences between what they have to do day to day and what they're doing strategically and what you're doing today. And start cultivating those new skills. All right. Another great skill, and this was one that Joe added that I think is really important, you need to proactively take on challenges, right? Challenges that are outside of your everyday product responsibility. If there is a skunk works or a strike team or a task force, and it may be a task force from HR, right? Nothing related to your job at all. Sign up. Demonstrate that you're willing to stretch beyond the boundaries of what your normal role is and be a contributor to the larger organization, even when it's a different job altogether, right? I've served on a couple of different task forces that had nothing to do with product management. And that does two things. One, it demonstrates your desire to lean in. And two, it gives you great learning opportunities. You start to engage with folks that maybe you don't normally engage with. You learn from them. You're able to then get a broader perspective on what's important in the company. All right.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, Roger. If I can interject,
Yeah.
this is a big one for me too, because whether you're getting a certification or you're getting a postgraduate degree, this is a really good opportunity to demonstrate the value of that investment to your employer by taking some of the concepts you're learning and applying them in your organization in a way that's a side project, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. I was in IT and I was on the technical side. I wanted to go into product management. I raised my hand and said, where do you guys need help? Let me try and apply some of the concepts that I was doing in my graduate degree to help the company. And I just kept doing that.
Right.
I kept doing that throughout the duration of my postgraduate work. But I've seen people also do that when they take our class in terms of taking some of the templates and processes that we implement and then showing how they can use it. I joined the right term is not culture club, haha, like not 80s term, but like you join other teams in your organization, like a fitness team or a wellness team. Even those involvement, it shows you're putting yourself out there. And I think when we look at these bullets, that's the big one for me in this module is being proactive. You're going to have to spend time outside of work to build that trust and build your brand and your exposure within your organization.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Right. So don't be quiet. Right. Now, if you're an introvert, stretch yourself a little bit. Right. But communicate your ambitions. Be clear with your boss about where you would like to be in the next 3 to 4 years. At the end of this, we're going to come back to this concept, right, of writing your own career plan. So stay tuned for more here. But you want to communicate your ambitions, be clear about what you're trying to do, where you want to go next, right? Establish a strong personal brand. What do you stand for? Are you the best innovative thinker, and that's what your strength is about? Or are you one of the most organized people who knows how to create a process and follow it, right? Not everybody has to be good at everything. So know what your own strengths are and then communicate those. Raise your hand when your particular skill set can help out with a problem, right? So build that personal brand. And then lastly, and I mentioned this earlier, when you're listening to ideas for your product, listen for ideas for how you can get better as well, right? Seek feedback. Proactively talk to like an engineering manager, right? Or somebody in marketing And after you're working on an area of collaboration with them for a while, go to them and say, hey, how did we do here? And how could I work better next time? So be proactive in seeking feedback, because that's when you're going to get honest opinions about how you can become better. All right. So you want to build relationships with technical teams, especially, but this advice applies also to building a relationship with marketing, with finance, with legal. But in particular, the relationship with your technical teams is a particularly important one. So make sure that in communicating your role, you're focusing on the who and the why, and you're trying to enable the creativity and the innovation of your technical teams by letting them focus on the what and the how. All right. So you are going to have to cross that line sometimes, for sure, right? There's a dotted line there. There's no question you'll be asked to lean in and provide more technical detail, but try to stay focused on the who and the why as a product manager. Because if you're not doing it, nobody else is. All right. The flip side of this is you've got to try to stay focused on what's important, right? The upper left here, right? Be strategic. Try not to get sucked down into the day-to-day tactical. And that is a challenge for every product manager. We want you to become expert, which means that everybody wants to come to you with their questions, but you've got to learn how to be judicious in how you spend your time there. If you can, reroute people to the right person to answer the question, point them to FAQs, write resources, make them available for others, do those things that you need to do in order to carve out the time you need to be strategic. Very,
So
very
Roger,
important.
there's a question that came in, and it's
Yeah.
centered around, how do you know what you're good at? Like, what are some of the tools or the techniques that kind of help us understand? And I'll use a term on my friend Todd uses, is what are our spikes? Where do we where do we exceed? And I know we'll talk about this a little later, but are there tools out there that could help product managers identify where their areas of strengths or areas of opportunities may exist?
Yeah, so two thoughts there. One is that we have a free skills assessment online that you can take. It evaluates your competencies in 15 areas of product management. So that's a good first take, right? But then to the comment that we made earlier, listen to the feedback, right? What do people compliment you on most often as a product manager? And that can often be a good guide to seeing where you really excel. And also look at your own internal feedback on a day where at the end of the day, you really solved a problem in a unique way, or you've helped tackle a communication challenge, or whatever it might be. If you've got that internal solid feeling of accomplishment, that's feedback to yourself that you've in fact got a skill there. And that's a skill for you to be continuing to foster and grow, as well as one that you want to promote in your own personal brand.
And
So two
Roger,
tips.
when I jump to the next slide, I'll have you go in and put the link to that individual skills assessment in the chats for anyone that's interested in doing that.
Yeah, we're going to share that link a little later on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good.
So, all right. So Roger talked about the role, right? Having that engagement with your leader, talking about what that path forward looks like. Now we got to talk about the other side of it, which is your expertise. And
Mhm.
in our training, we have our product side blueprint. Think of this as your product compass. What are the things you need to be aware of? I'm not going to go through each of the stages. What I want to call out is that outer ring, right? It's all about understanding the big picture that you're working in today as a product leader. So it's not just who are my competitors, what's the market doing? It's understanding how those external forces are going to influence the decisions that you're going to make. That's where like in my experience, when I've grown in my roles, throughout my career, it's not about the execution. We get to the part where how can we be proactive and think ahead? And there are different tools that can help you do that. And it's understanding your market, it's understanding your competitors, but it's being able to predict what their next moves are going to be. And really, those three sources of information are going to be your customers, your market, and your internal values. You got to make sure that what you're doing supports what the organization wants to go. And those things can change and evolve as market conditions change. Now, there are different ways that you can do this. And, Roger and I hear this all the time. I don't have time to do this. There's so much data. Guess what, guys? AI is here, and it's only going to be here to help you grow and be more efficient. We're going to focus on working smarter, not harder. And there are tools like ChatGPT and Copilot, and we were just talking about Perplexity the other day. These are tools that can help you streamline some of those research, some of those competitive tasks that you have to do. That's how you use those tools. It's not just about how you use AI to build a better product, but it's also understanding how you use AI to streamline your processes and get to decisions faster.
Right.
Right. And so we have a newly launched AI for Innovations product management course that can help you understand, hey, how do I use these tools? The big thing for me, and we have a gentleman named Dean Peters at Productside who we're really lucky to have. He's a big thought leader in the space, and I tend to follow who he follows. And it's making sure that I take time every week to see what's going on, read the articles, because especially in the AI space, it's changing fast. And if you want to impress your leader, show them, tell them what's going on. Maybe volunteer being the AI lead on your team, sharing every staff meeting. What are the new trends that are happening in your space? Right.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I've loved doing is joining a local product management association. There's product camps, there's product meetups. These are ways to meet up with peers. It's a good way to understand what are their challenges, right? It helps you align with, am I thinking about things in the right way? So you got to keep learning and demonstrate how you're going to apply those techniques to make a better product or build a better brand of yourself within your organization.
Absolutely. The thing I want to emphasize on this also, I have learned throughout my career that I learn more when I have to teach someone else how to do something, right?
Yep.
So if you've become particularly good, say, at competitive analysis, or you've done very well at how to develop a persona, if you have to teach someone else how to do those things, you're actually going to learn more as well. So do that work, right? It's both demonstrating that you want to lean in and help others, as we talked about earlier, and you're actually going to become more proficient at that particular skill in the process.
And Roger, talking about building a better brand, right? If you're known as someone that rolls up their sleeves and teaches, that's probably one of the best characteristics I looked for when I was hiring or even promoting product managers for the companies I've worked at.
Absolutely.
That's such a great skill to have in your back pocket and a great reputation to have.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, we talk about your strategic impact, right? We talk about having keeping your eyes out what's going on. And so one of the things that we talk about and we emphasize is you got to keep your eyes on the horizon. Like, okay, one of the biggest pitfalls that product managers struggle with is they're too focused on the near term. Right. So constantly thinking about, all right, what products should I build? What problems am I going to solve? Where are we headed and why? What do our customers need? Like being thoughtful about the decisions that you're making and communicating. And if you don't know, that's okay. Ask, right? Ask your leader, ask your boss's boss, ask someone on a different team. Ask the questions like, where are we going? I'll tell you, if you're a publicly traded company, listen to their earnings calls. Those are some of the best ways to learn about your industry, but also understand strategy and how organizations are trying to put themselves in a position to grow and exceed, and especially in these market conditions where it's highly competitive in a lot of different segments.
Absolutely.
So Roger, I think this is a good time for our next poll. And it's around how well aligned is your product strategy. So I'm going to let our host help us with this poll. Give everyone just a minute. So we're asking, how well aligned is your product strategy?
Right. There's nothing going on right now, nothing explicit, nothing written down, right? That's kind of the first question answer, but all the way down to you've got a product strategy and you know what business value it's delivering and you know what customer problems you're solving in a measurable way.
That's the big one, right? Is measuring customer problems. Like, are we solving for it?
Right.
Right. Well, it looks like we got some really bright product managers on here because they're telling us if you can end the poll, they're really doing a knockout job of understanding business value and solving customer problems, because that's the essence. Product strategy is demonstrating the ability to solve for customer problems. So let's go ahead and share the poll with everyone. And for the individual that said, I don't have an explicitly written product strategy, all right, you're in the right place. Let's talk. So so we'll stop sharing that one. All right. So remember, for those who aren't as familiar, what does drive product strategy? Your users, and your users can be anyone that receives value, what your market bears, your culture, and your business goals and objectives. These are all things that contribute to a very strong product strategy. Now, the question is this. I'll close out the poll. The question is this: how do you master this skill? That was Roger and I were talking about this. How do you master building a strong product strategy? Well, the first thing, and it's probably one of the hardest, is linking your strategy to business outcomes. So getting clarity. And we actually have our playbook, our Productside playbook. And one of the tools we're going to show in a minute is our outcome tree. We're going to give you a technique to help you visually map out your strategy to your business outcomes. But being able to do that means you're a really good storyteller. You've got to have an idea of that long-term vision, right? We're so focused on the now that sometimes we forget to look at the later, right? Now, prioritization, demonstrating a data-driven, thoughtful, and methodical way of prioritization is one of the things I look for in a product leader when looking at a promotion. Are they coming to me with data? Are they coming to me with confidence?
Right.
It isn't about which method you use. Don't let anyone try to tell you that there's one method and only one method only. There's a lot of really great ways to prioritize. Have conviction. Get people around you to buy into it, because every organization is a little bit different. But if you can demonstrate the art of really good storytelling when it comes to prioritization, you are going to have people are going to have high regard for your voice. Right? Now, the one that I want to emphasize here is, and this is the one that I think all of us are dealing with, is demonstrating the ability to be nimble. Can you dance in the moment? Right? We have different laws and regulations. We don't know who's going to be in office in November. All of those are going to influence actions that our organization is going to take. They're going to react. It's our ability to react in a strategic manner to those changes. That, if you can do that, if you can demonstrate the art of managing chaos, which is happening right now, you are going to go places in your product management career.
Absolutely.
All right. So I want to just quickly touch on the last bullet, which is defining and measuring success, right? So all of us are being scrutinized for the work that we're doing. We want to be able to demonstrate that there is an ROI for the investment that our organization is making in our product development process. So one of the ways that we do that is by being focused on, I'll just talk about it, outcomes, right? We have courses on this. I'm not going to dive into it too much, but being aware of where you want to go. Your success metrics say, am I doing the right things that are going to get us there? So success metrics are all about the impact to your users. Are you in fact delivering value to them that gets them to that North Star that you're trying to achieve? Your health metrics tell you, it tells you about the health of the product. This is where we talk about sentiment, customer satisfaction. We talk about adoption or repeat customers, frequency. Again, we cover all of these in our course, but it's being mindful of these different types of, I guess, measures of value or measures of success that we have to be very aware of.
Right. Absolutely. So the success metrics are your way of knowing that, in fact, you're helping your customers achieve their outcomes. Your health metrics are just making sure that along that journey, you're not, for example, as we have in the image, you're not running out of gas along the way. You don't have you don't have a website that's down. You don't have a service that's running too slowly. Those sorts of things, right? That's the difference between these two. But the point of all of this, again, as you want to be growing in your career, is that you become a product manager who's focused on outcomes, not just on how many releases can I get out in a year. That's an output. Or how on time was every release. right? It's about making sure that those releases actually deliver value to your customers that they love and that they are then willing to buy more of, right? That's what we're talking about.
And then one of the ways that we do this, and I'll have either Roger or Kim share this, we have our product side playbook, which you can purchase on the website. And one of the great tools is our outcome tree. And again, this is a visual representation where we start with the business outcome, the product outcomes. We talk about the problem to be solved. We talk about the solution. But you'll notice below, what are our success metrics? What
Mhm.
are our health metrics? Okay. Being able to clearly articulate these is going to bring a lot of value and help build your case for promotion on your team. Now, Roger, oh no, I got this.
Yep.
All right. So demonstrating leadership. So we've talked about your role, building your path. We've talked about mastering your knowledge, mastering your expertise in your product. We've talked about elevating your strategic impact. How do you demonstrate your strategic prowess to your leadership? How can you convince the people that are decision makers that they should invest in you and promote you within your organization? So I like to look at it in these ways. One of the biggest challenges we have as product leaders is leading without formal authority. As product managers, it's one of the toughest challenges we have. But what I love and what Roger loves and all of us love about it is your ability to inspire, your ability to motivate, to bring people from across the organization to help you launch and deliver value.
Right.
How can you demonstrate that, right? That's the leadership. That's like the soft skill, being excited, bringing people together, motivating them to want to be part of your core team. Now, I'm not talking about bragging, but when you do have success, share, share, share,
Mm-hmm.
right? This goes to building your brand. Build out a testimonial, build out a case study. You implemented this new process. You volunteered for this new opportunity. Any small thing you've done that's delivered value, whether it be internally, externally, share it, showcase it,
Right.
right? Don't wait to the end of the year, like I used to do in my 20s and be like, oh my God, what did I do this year? This should be something you're doing
Right.
every quarter,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes every month, because
Right.
you're going to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And keep a
Now,
journal of it, right?
yeah, keep a journal, keep
Keep
a
a journal of
product
it. We'll talk
journal.
about that again, but yes, write it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Then, so there's two of them that we were just recently working through: conflict resolution and negotiation, right? You are dealing with conflicting priorities all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thinks their item or their priority is your priority. How do you manage that? That is, boy, that is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But your ability to demonstrate trade-offs, your ability to master the art of negotiation. People ask me all the time, Joe, what are your favorite books for
Mm-hmm.
new product managers? And I'm looking at it, it's something like Never Split the Difference. It's the art of negotiation. I tell anybody that's growing in their career in product management, you got to read that book
Right.
because you're
Excellent.
constantly doing trade-offs,
Mm-hmm.
especially with your backlog and your roadmap. You've got to master the art of conflict resolution and negotiation as a product leader. And I'll tell you, and I'll give hats off to Rena on this. She actually brought up a good point to Roger and I. You want to use your journal, your stories, your success. Use that as part of your negotiation when you are trying to get that promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Use those success stories as a way to justify and build the case for giving you more responsibility. Let that be part of your negotiation. Show them what you're going to be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So be visible, self-advocate. Don't wait for somebody to advocate on your behalf. Be your self-advocate. It's what I don't know about you, Roger, but what's one of the pieces of advice that was even given to my daughters when they were in high school, like what they need to take in life? Like this is not even a product management skill. This is a lifelong skill.
Right.
Advocate for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one that I came to late in my career as well. I'll admit, right? I didn't have that advice early on enough, right? So I want to emphasize that that's a key aspect. The other thing I want to point out is in conflict resolution and negotiation, again, the product management role is a great starter role to become an excellent leader, a leader of teams and people, because you have no authority. But one of the things you should learn to do when you're trying to negotiate and point out things is use outcomes to help drive how decisions are made. Show to sales or show to someone in marketing the reason why their particular request may not be as important as the things you're working on is because you're driving towards success metrics that everybody else agreed to earlier were the things that were most important, right? So be data driven in how you manage conflict, in how you work on negotiations. And that's a powerful skill, that plus storytelling. So there's a balancing act. You need data as well as a narrative, right? Use both of those techniques as a product manager, and that will serve you well as a leader in the future. And demonstrating you have those skills is what's going to get you noticed for a promotion.
So Roger, there's another question here, and it says, what are some common pitfalls that can derail a product manager's path to promotion, and how can they be avoided? You want to take a stab at this one?
Well, we've talked about a couple of them in the positive, but yeah, in the negative is not spending, like I said earlier, for me, not spending enough time promoting our successes, right? And it isn't just the product successes, it's also your personal successes as well, right? And keep a journal of those things, right? That was one thing else I wasn't good at. Another technique that Joe and I talked about the other day is keeping your resume up to date.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, you expect to have a long and prosperous career at a particular company, but the act of forcing yourself to refresh your resume, say every 6 months, forces you to reflect on what successes have I had recently, either in the product sphere or in my own leadership capabilities. You want to add those bullets to your resume. So keeping that resume open and refreshed, maybe even set up a calendar reminder every 3 months, every 6 months. Oh yeah, review and refresh my resume. That's going to force you to get thoughtful about what you've accomplished. And that also puts that in the forefront of your brain. And that helps you then better self-advocate.
Yep. So I'll add to this. I'll tell you, I know Roger and I are talking about put yourself out there, volunteer. Don't overcommit.
Yeah.
Have a work-life balance. Okay.
Absolutely.
That was a lesson I learned early in my career. I remember the president of a company I was working for, he's like, well, who are you loyal to? And I said, well, I'm loyal to you, John. And he goes, no, that's the wrong answer. He's like, you be loyal to your family. That's where your loyalty lies. So
good advice.
Don't forget who you are as a person outside of work is going to bleed into what you do in your job. Right? So how you are outside of work is going to influence who you are in work. So you got to maintain a balance, whatever that looks like, but you got to take care of yourself. You got to get away, but you can't overcommit at the same time. I know I'm speaking at both ends of my mouth. It's a little bit of an art.
It is.
That you've got to find, and sometimes you're going to overcommit, and that's okay. Be honest, but then retrofit, not retrofit, but recalibrate what your priorities are in your career and in your life as well.
Right. I think an answer to your question also is in that last bullet. We want to be authentic at work, but we also need to remember that people are watching your attitude, especially as a product leader. So when you face a setback, right, there's a challenge in the engineering schedule. That's probably the most common thing you're going to encounter as a product manager, right? Don't just crumble under that. Right? Maybe inside you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many implications to this schedule delay. It's going to kill this. It's going to destroy our marketing campaign, blah, all of the things sales is going to say. Don't, grace under pressure, right? So you want to demonstrate that resilience and have grace under pressure. If you need to go outside and go for a walk and let out that concern, do it. But don't do it in front of folks. All right?
Yep.
Demonstrate, no matter how bad things are, you're the product leader. You're the one who's going to figure this out. As a team, you're all going to work together to resolve these issues, but don't crack under pressure. And like I said, I often would go for walks, Get out of
Yep.
the office. Back when we had a physical office, get out of the office. Even if you're working from home, go outside, play with a dog, whatever it might be for 10 minutes to just reset yourself and demonstrate that resilience to keep going, right? So that you can solve the real problems.
So we're going to keep going. There is a question in the Q&A.
Mhm.
Roger, we're going to answer it when we get to the Q&A part, but it has to do with what if your manager is expressing that they're pushing for your promotion, but leadership is stuck with budget
I
constraints?
see that. Yeah, yeah.
So we're going to come to that. So it's a great
Yes,
question. I think this will help
absolutely.
this next module that Roger's doing, and then we're definitely going to answer that question as we close out. So Roger, I'm going to hand
Mhm.
the baton over to you.
Excellent. Yes. So, and this is also a pitfall that I had early in my career. You go to the next slide. One of the best motivational speakers in the last 50 years was Zig Ziglar. And he's had this quote, which has resonated with me. If you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. And what that means is you're just going to, keep struggling and get nowhere if you don't have a goal. All right. So you need to establish for yourself what is next in your career growth, whether you are a 2 year in product manager or whether you've had 15 years of experience. Maybe you're already a VP of product management, but what's your next goal, right? What is it that you want to accomplish next in the service of your company or your community, whatever it might be? But always have a goal. All right. What is your goal? What do you want to accomplish? Because that will then help focus your efforts. All the things we've been talking about, it's going to help you focus your efforts. So let's talk about this next aspect of that is having a goal. You go to the next slide, Joe, is
Yep.
a key part of developing your career plan. All right. Every one of you, I hope, if there's nothing else you take from today, build a career plan. All right. And the career plan, there's all kinds of templates for them out there on the web. Just Google it a little bit, but be thoughtful about these particular aspects. All right. I already mentioned what's your next step in your career? What's your next mission? All right. What's the thing you want to accomplish next? Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe it is that you want to become a leader of multiple products, or you want to get that next director role, whatever it might be. Right. Be thoughtful too about your current challenges and areas of growth. Know what they are. We'll talk about putting in that, we'll put a link to our skills assessment, our free skills assessment into the chat. You can take that, it'll help you identify. Now, there's been a lot of books written about just focus on your strengths, right? And use those. But I think it's still important to know where your weaknesses as well. You may not become the best person at pricing if pricing is a challenge for you, but know enough, right, in all those areas. Definitely want to build up your skill set across, but yeah, know where you shine. That's the next one. We've talked about that several times, but now write it down. Your internal feedback that I talked about, the external feedback that you receive, the proactive nature you take to go get feedback about what you do well, write that down. Make sure you've got that written down so you know how to then demonstrate that, right? The journal I talked about earlier, all the accomplishments throughout the year, updating your resume, that prepares you for that annual review. Or hopefully you've got a more advanced company and you're doing quarterly reviews. Okay. Then you are armed when you sit down with your manager. It's not the night before and you have to really scratch your head and figure out, well, what have I accomplished? You've got it. You've been building it all along, right? So have that written down as well. All right. Have mentors. All right. People who can give you advice. So if you determine that, say, competitive analysis is not your strength, go find somebody who's awesome at it and ask them for help, right? And those folks can change over time, all right? So be engaged in getting help with others. I mentioned earlier, you should be a great mentor. When you've got a particular strength area, you'll learn more and you should be sharing that knowledge with others, right? I already talked about tracking your achievements, but use data, right? If your product actually gained 5% market share this year, write that down, right? You look at my resume, I've got a number of numeric achievements in my resume, right? The revenue increase that we had, the number of markets that we owned, the fact that we became able to launch multiple smartphones across multiple manufacturers, right? See, I actually said that, Joe. That's written on my resume. I know it, right? It's memorized. That's one of the things I'm really proud of in my career, right? So have this stuff written down. And I'm not talking about something that has to be a book this thick. It can just be a page or two in Microsoft Word, right? But have these bullets written down. Take command of your career by having a plan. Okay?
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about next steps and then we'll get to Q&A.
Mhm.
All right. So let's do our last let's do our last
Poll.
poll.
Yep.
And while we do that, we'll answer the question that was put in our Q&A. And that was around, how do you set yourself for promotion, but there's budget constraints? I think all of us have dealt with this one way or the other. I'll take a stab at this, Roger, and
Go for it.
then you
Yeah.
can add it. All right. I would recommend take on the responsibilities, because those individuals that get promoted, they're
Mhm.
they're being watched to see, okay, can they do the job? Are they able to demonstrate the strategic thinking, the abilities that are needed in that role? Because what's the worst that's going to happen? The worst that's going to happen is you're going to have that experience. You're going to be able to judge the work that you've done. You're going to add it to your resume. If your organization isn't able to recognize that, then what you do is you now have a story that you can share with a future employer,
Absolutely. Right.
right? You're building your personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I would add to that as well. Um, there are budget cycles at companies, right? There are budget cycles in the economy, right? And so there are times where, okay, Joe's absolutely right. Okay. One of the key things that's always been career advice for me is do the next job you want to be promoted to in advance of the promotion and demonstrate that you have all the skills necessary, right? So absolutely do that. But then just be building up your data set, being prepared for when the budget does shift, right? That you're ready to have that meeting with your manager and say, look, you said before we didn't have the budget, but now I see that we're going to build a bigger marketing plan this year. So that means we must have some more budget available than we did before. I'm ready for promotion. Help me, right? And what do you need from me to be able to proactively pursue this promotion? So have a dialogue with your manager and pay attention to what's going on in the company. When you see signs that those purse strings are opening again, then strike. Be ready, right? But build up your capabilities in the meantime, as Joe was just describing. But again, proactively pursue this and pay attention.
All right. So
I
let's
hope that
share
helps.
the poll. So
Mhm.
it looks like pretty evenly split in terms of defining your role, strategic thinking, leading with
Good.
authority. So this is good. Everyone found value
In
in something
different
that we
things.
talked about. So let's talk about next
Absolutely.
steps.
Yep. So we should put into the chat um, the link to our free skills assessment. So you can take that. And then I'd like to talk about our new, just freshly launched OPM self-study course. So OPM self-study was just released with a refresh that now brings the latest concepts in product management. You want to go to the next slide?
Yep.
Um, that that self-study is now available. Use this QR code to get a link to that page. This is a way for you to invest in your career. All right. Take a self-study course. And right now we have a great sale going on. So that price of the self-study is actually down 15%. Right. So be able to build up all those skills. So what I would recommend is a 1-2 punch. Take the ISA for free that we just talked about, and the link is now in there. And then take the self-study course and concentrate on those areas that you found from the ISA, the individual skills assessment, where you probably could use some strengthening. And the self-study course is very powerful. It's self-paced. You can take a chapter at a time, a lesson at a time, or run through it quickly, however you want to learn. It's a great resource. And then become certified. That's another element of being successful, is demonstrating that you want to grow in your career by gaining certifications in product management. The Association of International Product Marketing and Management, AIPMM, offers a certification in becoming a certified product manager. Our self-study course will get you ready for that exam. And when you're demonstrating to HR and to your boss that you're proactively pursuing improving your skills and gaining certifications, that is another major element of preparing you for proper promotion. All right. You want to talk about this one, Joe?
Yeah. So there are grants out there. So those of you who aren't currently employed and are looking to figure out ways to pay for a certification, our products, our training falls within the approved U.S. Department of Labor Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So I've given you guys the QR code, but take advantage of this grant because you may be eligible to get the cost of our webinars reimbursed through this different grant. So take a look at it. There's the link. There's the QR code. If you have more questions on this, ask away. I also want to make you guys aware we do have an upcoming webinar with our very own Rena Alexin and Tom Evans on driving business outcomes through product planning. So that is coming up in just a couple of weeks. So check that out. I do have another question that I want to get to as we have 5 minutes left. So the question is this. Why in practice the most successful at their job are those who live at their job 24/7, but never those who leave work, who never leave work, and stop thinking about stop thinking about their job over time. So Sergey, I understand where you're coming from, right? As someone that has grown in my career, has grown in my family, I have learned the value of work-life balance. And in fact, the most successful people I've worked with, it's not so much what they're doing in the office. It's more about how successful they are as human beings, as families, as partners. So don't think that the people that only get promoted are those who stay at work 13 hours a day. That may have been the case 15 or 20 years ago, but as someone that has experienced that, people are looking for good human beings. They're looking for people that are representatives of their company in a way that demonstrates their values, right? We're not just looking for that aptitude. We're looking for the whole person. And so don't lose sight of that. Don't get discouraged and think you have to be at work 13, 14 hours a day, because eventually, and Roger can attest to this, you'll get burnt out.
Absolutely.
And you'll get burnt out very early in your career, and you'll lose that motivation. And what you don't want to lose that motivation in your career.
Completely
Great
agree.
question.
Yep. Fantastic question. For sure. Good. I
So,
hope that helped. Are there any other questions folks want to pop into the Q&A?
So let's see. Oh, here's one. And I think this kind of speaks to what we're doing, Roger. How do you balance the demands of your current role with additional responsibilities that come from seeking a promotion? So like that balance, remember I said, don't overdo it, be
Right.
mindful, but how do we do that, Roger? How do you balance your day job with taking on some of those additional responsibilities? What are some of those techniques you've used?
So when I'm looking at those opportunities that are sort of outside the product management role, I do want to make sure that I have a passion for whatever might be going on. So don't sign up. I mean, there's going to be multiple opportunities. Don't sign up for everything that comes across your bow, right? Instead, pick and choose those things that come up. You're like, oh, yeah, I really do have a passion for the environment, right? So suppose there's going to be a task force built to like, how do we become a more green company? Right. And that resonates with you because you care about the environmental issues. Pick that one instead of picking one that could be something that's not something they're going to be passionate about. You want to connect your passions with these extra responsibilities because that passion is going to give you the juice you need to actually do it. Right. If you're just picking too many things or things that don't resonate with you, you're not going to do as good a job on them. So I would definitely pick and choose so that you have a passion aligned with getting that work done so that you pick something that you're going to do well at. That's my advice there.
So the next one, and we'll end with this question. How important, and you mentioned this, how important is it to have a mentor or sponsor in your organization, and how do you find one? Well, so I'll take a stab at this one. I have always had the mindset that a mentor should be someone that's not in your organization. It can, but I've always seeked out folks that are unbiased and that have an outside perspective, because I believe it's that outside perspective that complements your point of view. And that's really, you're looking for people that challenge you, give you perspective that maybe you don't have. And sometimes and there's nothing wrong with it. I just would encourage you to look outside your organization. Now I'll say it. If Don or Jan are listening to this, they were, mentors in my organization. They were leaders. They were a different business unit. So it wasn't in the same unit I was in. So they were my mentors, but it's definitely important. How to find one, this is where going to different meetups, identifying those people that you look up to. Maybe it's somebody that's a friend as a reference. I've gotten mentorship recommendations from other friends. Like tell them, hey, I'm looking to grow. Do you know anyone that's really good at, that has a really good experience or that has knowledge to share? I'm doing that for a friend of mine right now. So ask,
Right.
hey, who would be somebody I could work with that might be interested in having a virtual cup of coffee with me, every few weeks?
Yep. So last question, Sergey actually asked a follow-up question. I meant think job, live your business, live your products 24/7, but not being in the office 24/7, of course. Yes, I do think you have to find a balancing act. As a product manager, though, I think it's great to tap into the skill of being curious. So even outside work, yeah, you should definitely be thinking about your product. And when you see things that are not related to your product, sometimes that can be the greatest source of serendipity, of new ideas. So yeah, you do want to bring outside life to thinking of your product, but you don't have to be thinking about your product all the time,
Right.
right?
Give your brain a break.
Absolutely. Right.
All right. Well, Roger, this was fun. I hope everyone had fun.
Absolutely.
Please follow us on LinkedIn. Come join us on our different courses. We got a lot of great offerings. And thank
Mhm.
you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen to Roger and I.
Absolutely. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for coming. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.
All right.